Hi, everybody. My name is Diane A. from Nashville, Tennessee. And I'm going to start the clock here because I know we're got to be right. I am a grateful member of the Worldwide Fellowship of Al-anon. And I love y'all's topic, by the way. We will be amazed. I'm already amazed. This place is phenomenal. I mean, Mike and I, my husband and I walked all around today and checked everything out. And just, it's a beautiful place. Thank you. And a room full of beautiful people. I'm so grateful to be here. I always have to stop and just invite my higher power in. I invite the same. Chris, thank you for inviting me and starting us off with the prayer. You know, I believe my higher power has to work through me and just take me out of this. So I'm hoping you'll hear something tonight that God has me to share for y'all tonight. And I'm just so grateful. I want to thank Teresa and Keith for picking Mike and I up and taking us to lunch. We just enjoyed just getting to know each other. The thing about coming to conferences that I love so much is that I feel like I know y'all. We're just all family. We really are. And it's just, I told her the best thing about going to conferences is the people. The places are beautiful. Yes, that's wonderful too, but it's the people. And so I thank you for letting me be a part of this convention. I'm so excited to be here. And to kick it off, I have not ever done the kickoff before, so I'll just be glad in an hour or so that y'all invited me to be first. I also want to thank Debbie and the AMOT recording. I mean, that is so special. If they weren't here typing, recording us, everything, as my husband always used to say, our history is gone. Because we listen to CDs, the old tapes, flash drives, you name it. And we listen to those continually, all the time. Because all those people have passed, that were our legacy and stuff that we just love. And I'm just so grateful that they're here. Please support them so they'll continue to come, So please do that. Also, I want to thank my husband, Mike. He came with me. It's usually the other way around. I usually get to support him, but he's supporting me this trip and stuff, and he's the love of my life. You'll hear a little bit more about him in the rest of the story. But I do want you to know we celebrated 49 years of marriage this year. I don't want to fail. Sometimes I forget to say that, and people say, well, y'all are still together, right? Yes, because of this program, because of your program, because of my program. That's the only reason we're still together. I know it. I don't think we could have survived. And last week, I can't wait for the rest of the speakers. I know several of them, and they're dear friends of ours, and I'm just... Y'all stick around. They've got great stories and stuff, and I love just being able to be with them here. So I think that's all the house cleaning that I've got. I'm looking forward to hearing some speakers that I don't know. So we will be here all weekend, and happy to be a part of this. Thank you. So I am from a huge family. I'm one of 12, and I'm in the middle. I'm a twin. There's 8 girls and 4 boys. There's 12 and a half years between the oldest and the youngest. And so my parents were busy. We had a wonderful family. I mean, it was, we played together, we fought together, we just, we still get together today. We're all still friends and get together. My sisters, I've got my water bottle here that I almost lost at the airport because I'd left it and they had to go get it, of all my sisters. And they're here with me. My family's with me too, but y'all are my family too. But anyway, so we're in the middle, 7 and 8. My twin and I, we start the bottom six. It was the older six and the bottom six. And we just had a great time growing up. We didn't know, everything that my parents, there wasn't a lot of alcohol around. There was alcohol in that my dad would come home from a hard day at work, and he'd sit down in his chair, and he would have a drink. I don't remember him having two. He may be, but usually it's one. And he taught us how to make his drink. He would have dinner by himself because we'd already eaten, because he came in later than we ate. And my mom didn't drink, except for like if she had a party, she might have a glass of wine or champagne or something like that. But my mom was like me. She's small, and she'd have that one drink, she'd get silly. And that was the alcohol, It was for relaxing and having fun with friends. And I never saw a lot of negative consequences, I guess, from alcohol, except for in my teenage years, my brothers and stuff, older brothers, would have parties, and they seemed to be having a great time. They'd have a beer keg, and all their friends would be around, and we'd kind of be spying on them. I didn't see anything fighting or any of that. I've got a couple of sisters that they're close in my age, and so we partied a lot together, and there was a lot of one sister had a tendency to drink a little bit too much, and that's where the negative consequences that I saw. If I drank too much, I would be like that. I would embarrass myself. I would get sick. I'd cry. I'd not remember what I did the next morning. I'd say I'll never do that again and all that. And that was my thing. And so for me, I was a control freak, and I am still, but I'm still working on it. That's why I'm still here. But it was like I would control. If I have a drink and I start to feel it, that's when I stop, because I don't want to go beyond that point. I don't like it. I know I have. College years, it was wonderful. I went to an all-girls school, high school, had a blast there. There was an all-boys school across the street, There were sororities, there was fraternities. And there were a lot of fraternity and sorority parties. And there was drinking, even though drinking wasn't allowed yet at our age. It was still 21. And then when I turned 18, but there was a lot of drinking. But I never really had a lot of negative consequences from it. So, alcohol, there was nothing wrong with it. Now, the drug culture came up and stuff when I was graduating high school and went into college, but I participated in some of that because I'm one person that I want you to like me, and I'm going to be part of the crowd. It's not that I have to have it or anything, but you got it. I'll do it sometimes, and it's just, oops, sorry, my pen dropped. So, that was, college was fun. I had a great time. And it was because of growing up the way I did, it was very strict. My dad was a disciplinarian, and, we were all organized and controlled and and so I took that on. That's normal for me. That's healthy, supposedly, I thought. And anyway, so going into college, I was like a bird and said, the cage, the door got open because I was under, we always went to church and all that kind of stuff. But as soon as I went to college, I was on my own. And I didn't have to go to church. I didn't have to go to classes if I didn't want to. Nobody was looking out after me. I could, we had curfew back then in college. But still, it was such a freedom that I really had a great time. I partied a little bit too much. It was in the hippie years, and I considered myself a hippie and would go down, protest, and do all this stuff, and just be a part of the crowd. And there were a lot of things that I know I didn't choose to go to church because I think that for me, I was partaking in a lot of things that I probably didn't before. And because I was one of those good girls in high school, because I grew up with a culture that, if you do certain things, you lie, you cheat, you do whatever, you're going to go to hell. And you got to go and report it anyway, and, when you on a regular basis, but I didn't. And so when I got to college, it was all, I don't have to do that. That's not really, I don't have to do that. So college changed me, but that's where I was dating a lot of guys, and that's when I met my husband. And he was, at the time, of course, not, he was at another end of Tennessee. We're from Nashville, native Nashvillians. There aren't many left of us there, but we, born and raised in Nashville, we didn't know each other. We were a couple of years apart. So a mutual friend had us a blind date, spring break of my sophomore year. And that was just once we started dating, it was on. And I was a sophomore in college, and he was finishing up his college in Memphis, and I was in Knoxville. And so we ended up just seeing each other whenever we can. I took a bus to Memphis, or he'd drive up to Knoxville or something, just those last few months before the school year ended. And that summer, I decided I wasn't going to go back to college because I'd met him. And I just thought, we're madly in love, and I don't need to go to school anymore. I decided I was my dad needed a secretary in his office, and I said, I can do that. I'll come home. You don't have to pay for my college anymore. I will work for you. It's a win-win situation. And I was just doing it so I could be, in Nashville with Mike. And it wasn't to help my dad out or anything like that. It was to be on my own and to be free and have fun. I mean, this is the early 70s, and it was fun. We had a great time. And we dated for a couple of years, and during those couple of years, there were several red flags, but I didn't know those red flags, what they were. But, if I could confront him or ask him about those, he would explain them away. And I, of course, would believe him. And I just thought, well, he wouldn't lie to me. There was no reason to lie. And I just believed him. I was very gullible and very naive. So anyway, we dated for a couple of years, and all was well. And all of a sudden, one day, he just broke it off and said we were through and wouldn't give me a reason. And I was like, okay, I'll tell you, I'm a hippie. I'm love, peace, all that stuff. It's okay, I'll be fine, I'll find somebody else, don't worry. And it was like, I always say it was back then, there was the Que Sera, Sera song. What will be, will be. And I thought, well, if we're meant to be, we will be. I had still some faith from growing up. I learned a lot of, morals and values growing up, and I had faith back then. And I believe that there was something out there, but that higher power, my higher power back then, was a God of fear. I feared. I did every action, everything that I did or didn't do was out of fear. That was my motivation, is I didn't want to go to hell. I was going to be good. I wanted you to be my friend. I was going to be good. I wasn't, whatever. I know it was all fear, looking back. That ruled my life. And so when we broke up, it was okay, and we remained friends. And I would make sure I moved in with another. I moved out of my parents' house because after a couple of months, they decided, or they told me that I needed to abide by their rules because I was in their house. And I was like, nope. I've been in college 2 years on my own. I can't. This doesn't work for me, these curfews and stuff. And so I got an apartment with a girl that introduced us, and we got a little duplex, and we had a great time. But when we broke up, I went ahead and moved in with another friend. That was a big partier. And that sister I was going to tell you about that was my example of what not to do, not how much not to drink and stuff. She moved in with us. So, the party was on. And every weekend, there was always a party in my apartment. And, of course, I would invite Mike to come, and he could, bring his friends or whatever. He never brought a girlfriend. He always brought guy friends. And I always would have a guy friend myself to make sure that he knew I was doing just fine without him. Yeah, I know. He's a fisherman, but he said I was throwing that bait out there, and we just it was fun, and I still cared for Mike, and I always loved him, and after a year of being apart, he had to have his wisdom teeth taken out, and when they took out his wisdom teeth, they give you a bunch of stuff, and to me, I told him it was his truth serum that they gave him, and he ended up calling. His office manager took him in to have all 4 wisdom teeth taken out, and he had to go back and take him to his apartment, but he had to get back to the office. So Mike gave him my number at my dad's office to call to come take care of him. That's the Al-anon call, by the way, y'all. And I got this call at my dad's office. Hey, Diane, this is George. Mike had his wisdom teeth out, and he needs you to come take care of him. Okay. First of all, it was George who, Mike who, because I wasn't sure that I didn't know this was going to happen. And then he explained, and he didn't know that we'd broken up a year before. So Mike failed to tell him that. But of course, I got the call. He wants me back. Okay, So I tell my dad I'm going to go over and take care of Mike. He goes, wait, didn't y'all break up? And I said, yeah, but that was a year ago. He needs me now, and so I ended up. I said I'll be back. I'll just take it on my lunch break. I'll go over. Went over and lined up a bunch of his friends to come over so I could go back to work for my dad, and told him I'd bring him some dinner that night. And so I go home after work and tell the guy that's living at my apartment with me. That I've got to take Mike dinner because he's had his wisdom teeth out. I mean, how many people go take dinner to somebody that had their wisdom teeth taken out? But I did. I really did. That's just, it floors me today that I did that I was actually taking him food, and he has his wisdom teeth. I don't know. I guess I was very sneaky back then even. But anyway, so my boyfriend didn't like that at the time. But I told him it was totally taking him dinner, and that was it, and I'd be right back. And, I didn't, there wasn't anything between us at this point. Of course, I failed to tell him that when I went to take my lunch break, then I saw Mike that he was saying, I love you, I want you back. He had to write it down because he couldn't talk. He wanted me back, all this stuff. And, of course, I said, that might be a little issue because I am dating somebody. I've got this other guy. And but anyway, when I went by and told my boyfriend at the time that I was going, he said, well, if you go, I won't be here when you get back. That was the easiest breakup I ever did. It was, I told him, I said, I promise I'll be right back, and he still was gone. But he left me his dog. And the dog lived with us for 15 years. It was, I guess he wanted a reminder of him. I don't know, but it was a fabulous dog. I love my dog. But anyway, so then we were back on again. And so Mike had asked me to move in with him at this time, and I thought, okay, because I still didn't have a clue why we broke up in the first place. Not a clue. I just, and it didn't matter anymore because now he wanted me. So those red flags, now that he wants me, it's okay. And so my mom got wind of it and said, are you living with Mike? And I was like, yeah, because we broke up, I want to know if we can live together. I don't know, how this is going to end and stuff. And she's like, well, he won't ever marry you now. He doesn't need a piece of paper. And I was like, if that's true, I'll figure it out. I'll know. But anyway, so, 3 months later, we were dating, and we happened to be out at his dad's farm, and he was on some of those other things that, besides alcohol, that he just all of a sudden, out of the blue, asked me to marry him. And now it shocked me, and I think it shocked him even more. because he had not planned a great big proposal thing or anything. It just came out. And because he was looking at me or something, and he just said, let's get married. And so, we got to go home, and he asked my dad for my hand in marriage. And, of course, my mom was all excited because now I was going to get married. And I know what that was. I was always used to say my mom had this conditional love for me that she, I couldn't be around her for a while because she was, it was too hard for her. She thought I was going to get hurt. And I know that now, after my mom's passed and talking to my older sisters and stuff, they went through some stuff that I think she was just trying to protect me and didn't want me to go through some of the things that we didn't know about that they had gone about. So, it was my mom's love for me that we kind of had to stay apart for a while until, he proposed, and then all was well. It was all forgiven, and let's plan this marriage, and we got married 3 months later. And it was, it was great. The white picket fence, the house, everything, it was going to be perfect. We found a house the second year we were married and moved in. And the third year I had my first son with Mike, and I thought everything was just perfect. And it was all grand. And he was working hard. I had stopped working when I had my son, but we had worked together. And lots of parties, lots of friends, lots of other things, substances and alcohol. But when I got pregnant and it's all off for me. That was it. I just said no more for me. And I'm going to be a mom now, and I'm going to be a responsible mom. But, a glass of wine is fine and all that. Actually, the OBGYN told me to have a glass of wine while I was pregnant. It would calm you down. And but anyway, so I had my first son. A few years later, 3 years later, I had my second son. And I love being a mom. I love babies. I'm blessed to be able to work with children today some, and it's just the closest to God that I can be is when I'm working with babies and children. But anyway, so we, all seemed well. But as the disease of alcoholism, because he didn't stop drinking. And a couple of times, the alcohol, I didn't even notice. It was more of social drinking is what I called it. But he was drinking before he got home or after, and I didn't know how much he was actually drinking. And there was those things that start happening, those red flags start happening. And I'm busy being a mom. I'm busy, taking care of these children, and he's working hard, and so, buying stuff for the family, taking care of us, doing a wonderful job. But then the things, the behaviors start happening. The disease of alcoholism starts coming into this marriage slowly. But I saw the walls getting built. I was doing things, to control. I'll say this, I never had any communication skills as far as what to do with there's an argument or a disagreement. I never got to see my parents ever fight. They never fought in front of us but one time, and we thought, okay, they're going to get a divorce because they had this one fight. We were just clueless, and he saw the opposite. He saw lots of arguing in his household, and so, we did not argue. When I'd try to discuss something with him or confront or whatever, it always ended up being that I would be the one apologizing at the end of the conversation because I felt guilty because he was working hard and maybe he was staying out late because he was working hard to pay for whatever it was. It just one thing after another. I seemed to always find out I would apologize. Not that he asked me to, but I would feel that guilt and stuff, and I would apologize. And so, so what do? You stop confronting. You don't worry about it. You just kind of stuff those things away. You don't argue. He was starting to go through a lot of anxiety, some depression. He was seeing therapists for that, and medicines and doctors, and nothing seemed to work. And I lived with a lot of fear and just that something would happen to him. And I thought I could be the one responsible, pushing him over the edge and stuff. And I've got these 2 young boys. And so, what do you do with that? I just make sure I'm a better wife. Make sure I'm the best cook. Make sure I go and be a good lover. Whatever it is, keep him happy. That's my job. I'm supposed to keep him happy so that he doesn't want to, commit suicide or whatever it is, those feelings of depression. I can make him happy. I can do that. I can try. And I did. And I just stuffed other things. And, of course, what happens when we stuff all those feelings down and we don't share them with anybody, they come out at the kids. My kids got it. They got my anger and frustration because I was afraid to give, him that. And so, again, fear. And, I loved him so much, and I didn't want a divorce or anything like that. There was a lot of separate things happening, and he was isolating, not being a part of my family get-togethers or whatever. There was always excuses. He had a lot of migraines. And he actually really did have migraines, but I think some of them were maybe hangovers. But, he would fall asleep in the middle of a party, and we called him the PM rocker because he couldn't stay awake. And I just thought he worked so hard. He was so tired, But I think it was other things. I was naive. I just didn't understand all that stuff. And I could make it all up in my head that everything was okay and it was going to be okay. I didn't ever go see counselors. But, his parents started some issues, and we realized there were some alcohol issues with his parents that they were drinking. And so, I thought, well, maybe it's hereditary, and maybe that he's drinking. Maybe he needs to stop drinking for a while. So I would say, let's stop drinking for a while. And I would say us because I was drinking along with him, but it wasn't an issue for me to stop. But I said, let's stop drinking for a while because we don't want to be like your parents. If we keep drinking like this, we might turn out like them. So he would stop for a while. And, of course, what happens. There's no program. There's nothing. Everything gets worse, because he has no tools, no medication, nothing to help ease all the stress and stuff that he was going through. His disease, he didn't have any kind of alcohol to take care of that, and we didn't know anything about AA or Al-anon or any of that. And so he ended up would stop, and eventually I'd say, well, he can stop, so that's not it. So you can go back to drinking, But he wasn't drinking a lot in my eyes. He was having 1 or 2 glasses of wine or something with me, and that was, or 1 drink or something. That's all I saw. And anyway, it was there was a lot of red flags starting to happen. And I would say, something about it, and I just started just ignoring it because at one time my mom got sick and with terminal illness, and so I just focused a lot on her. And she actually ended up coming and living with us for a little while before she died in my house, and then in Nashville. She had retired. They had retired to Florida. And I just kept myself busy so I didn't have to really look at this situation. I became that den mother at Cub Scouts and stuff. I became the room mom at school. I became the Sunday school teacher at church. Look at me, I'm okay. My house is sparkling, it's clean, everything looks good. We have dinners at home. Everything I did, it was like I would call him several times during the day to see who was coming home, that Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. I didn't know because that way I could plan whether or not to have the boys have dinner with us or feed them and then put them, in front of the TV or do their homework or whatever it was we were doing. And because he would be in that depressed mood or whatever, or angry mood or whatever, I protected them from seeing any of that. And, that's not healthy for me, too. But I did that. I know I kept him from that relationship with the children sometimes. And anyway, if he was in a good mood and was coming home, we'd have family night. We'd have game night. We'd have dinner together. All of that, I just planned everything like that. But he started doing some things that were kind of crazy and not normal, but, I would still take his side when he'd do these things that just were bizarre. I think they were bizarre, but I thought, a good wife supports supports your husband and stuff, and I'd say, you sure about that? But, not really questioning him too much. And, those things were happening, and finally, because I'd always tell him how to fix things, when he'd have issues and stuff. I'd say, why don't you try this? Because, see, I grew up, my dad we fixed everything at home. Everything, you fix it, you take care of it. We're fixers, and we still are. We want to fix everybody and everything. We were taught, I've got 4 siblings under me, you take care of them. And the oldest took care of us, and everybody takes care of everybody. That's just what we do. And so I took care of Mike. And I was, he did, I say, God finally did for me what I couldn't do for myself, in that he came home one day and told me some crazy stuff that he almost did during that day, and I was like, okay, I have no answer. You need to go see a professional. Please go see a professional. And, it wasn't the first time. It was the umpteenth time. But this time it was really, I could tell I couldn't excuse this thing away. And when he did, he went to see somebody, and they recommended that he and I go and see somebody, an addictionologist. And they had me answer these questions and stuff, and it was, I filled out these forms, and we went to the office of this guy, and he came out and he said, after he took him aside and talked with him, and I had to listen to tape. It was probably cassette tape back then. And listened to these cassette tapes, and I thought, how do they know what's going on in my house? How do they know? Because that's what I'm living with. And they came out and they said, this is real easy. He's an alcoholic, and he needs to go to treatment. And I was like, okay, so what do I do? How do I fix it? And he said, pack his bags. And that's not what I wanted to hear. And I said, I can't pack his bags. I've got children at home. I need him at home and stuff. But anyway, he did an outpatient treatment, and I went to a family week, which was my saving grace, because I went there for a few days, and my kids went with me. They were 8 and 11 at the time, and they did a family week. It was like 3 days. And in there, they gave me my Al-anon One Day at a Time book. And they told me about the word enabling. But see, that's not, my word for that was helping. I was helping him. I'm very helpful. And anyway, so that, I heard that word, and I didn't realize the damage that I was doing by helping him out of all those situations. And explaining why he wasn't at family gatherings, explaining why he couldn't go, wherever it was, and excusing those things, because I believed, it was all about his migraines and everything else. And ended up, they had me sign a piece of paper that said I would go to 4 Al-anon meetings. And I'm a commitment person. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to be there. So I thought maybe they could check up on me too. But so I went to my first Al-anon meeting, and it was a bunch of old ladies sitting around a table. I'm sure they were a lot younger than I am. But they were sitting around this very small little group, and all I could hear, and get me, this is all I could hear. It's not what they were saying. But all I could hear was they had a disease, and they were sick, and I did not want to catch what they had. Because, see, the doctor had already said, he's the alcoholic. He didn't say there was anything wrong with me. See, I'd been holding this family together and doing everything. And he was working, but, still, I didn't have any fingers pointing at me. Because how was I to blame for any of this? So I went to my second meeting because I said I'd go to 4, and it happened to be a newcomer meeting, which I love. I ended up doing one last night, and at my home group. And by the way, I do have I have several home groups. By the way, we go to four meetings a week, and I do service work with all of those groups because they are my home group. And anyway, this group had a newcomer meeting, and I went to that. And I started hearing about the steps and how we have sponsors and we do these steps and what they were about and the higher power. And I saw those steps on the wall. And I believed all that stuff anyway. And I thought, I've already done all that. I grew up that way. And I thought, I don't need that. But, I'll go. I'll still go because they're going to teach me how to keep him sober. And see, I did. I thought, you're going to give me a clue and make sure he doesn't go back. And because I remember the guy that I married, and I didn't want the guy that was at that point. And I thought, I want to stay in this marriage, so you're going to help me, keep him sober so we can get better. And so we ended up, I went to those newcomer meetings. We went to newcomer meetings for 6 weeks. It was great. With a group. And then I had my kids there was Al-anon and Al-kid. And I said, just go. They say 6 meetings, and if y'all don't like it, that's fine. You make the choice. And my kids loved the Al-anon and Al-kid meeting. They really did because, see, they were clueless that there was anything wrong with Dad. When we came home and said he was the alcoholic and he had to go to treatment, and they were like, he was the nice guy. I was the crazy one, It was like, because see, I hid all that from them. They had no clue. They never saw us fight, argue, anything. And so they were really clueless. But when they went there, they could talk to the other kids that had been in the families and stuff of alcoholism and stuff. And so they loved it. And I was, their Al-anon years, my oldest went for 7 years, and the youngest kind of just followed his coattails until he went on, and then my youngest chose to do his stuff and didn't go anymore. But anyway, they got a touch of AA Al-anon because there was actually an AA guy that was leading it. He was a double member. And so I'm so grateful because he had several of those Al-anons in his first wedding. And but anyway, it was I just started going to the meetings, and all of a sudden I started hearing people talk about the fear of living with someone, that was suicidal or whatever, these things. I started hearing these people sharing things, and they'd laugh about these certain actions and stuff that people were doing. And I thought, why are they laughing? I do that. And I was like, is that not healthy or something? No, I was doing all this stuff, and so I thought I better keep coming back and listening because there's some things here. Evidently, I don't know how to behave in this marriage or whatever it is. So, something's going on. So I kept going, and all of a sudden, in the middle of a few months into the program, I didn't have a sponsor yet. Mike did, and he was working the steps, and he was going to a meeting every night, and I was seeing some change. I was seeing him change, but see, I didn't feel anything different because I really wasn't working. I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't work the steps because I figured I'd already done that. And so anyway, he ended up, he got to where he'd heard it enough how many times to be rigorously honest without talking to his sponsor, got rigorously honest with me about infidelity in the marriage for 8 years. And so the bomb was there, and it was like, okay, I need Al-anon. I didn't know if I was going to stay in the marriage. I saw him getting better. We had to seek a lot of counseling, outside counseling, and his sponsor. I got a sponsor. I started working the steps. I got busy. I started doing service work. I had to pour myself into Al-anon because I wanted to get better because I didn't know whether the marriage was going to survive or not. And I wanted to get better. I was seeing my part in a lot of this stuff. I started working those steps so I could see my part and how I was manipulative and controlling and really dishonest and all those things that I was saying that I wasn't, I finally had to look at that and see my part in it. And so we got that worked out after a lot of counseling and stuff. And Mike tried to do an amends with me. His sponsor got it at first, and it wasn't suitable for me. It wasn't a good amends. And what I needed, as far as what I needed for my amend, and this is what, Mike and I say, we can't tell people what, when we want to make it right, what the amend can be. And I knew what my amend for this relationship to make it and to survive was going to be. And he wasn't willing to do that for a long time. And finally, he and his sponsor talked about it and said, okay, let's try it. Because I didn't know if the marriage was going to make it. And this was like 5 years into the alcoholism. Once we got AA and Al-anon, in 1990, we came into the program. And so we started... he made those amends to me, and then I could start trusting him again. It was like that was what I needed, is total honesty from him. And we were just going to build on that. And I could tell how hard he was working his program and how hard he wanted, and how much he loved me and the boys and wanted to stay in the marriage. So we were good, and then our boys were teenagers, and things started happening. Our youngest son, after he'd been through Al-anon and stuff and all, got caught with weed in his shoe at 8th grade in Tennessee that year. They had zero tolerance. You got caught with anything, you're out for a year. And so they called us, and we had to go and get him out of school. He had to go. He ended up with... of course, my sponsor, this is another thing. My sponsor kept hearing me talk, because that controlling took over again, and we were going to interviewing all these schools, but middle of 8th grade, and he got kicked out of a public school. So we were trying to get him into private schools, and they didn't want a kid that just gotten kicked out, with drugs and stuff. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. My sister was being an angel and taking care of, letting him work on her farm, while I was working and Mike was working, and I decided I was going to have to quit working where I was and homeschool him if I couldn't get him in, because he was 8th grade, and I wanted to go past 8th grade. And so, but I knew he and I would just be butting heads. But anyway, I ended up going to all these schools, and I kept complaining to my sponsor about, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And she said, Diane, you just got to let go and let God. And this was, I'd been 10 years in the program, and it was like, how's God going to get him into school? I'm having to go and interview. She said, you've done the footwork, now let go. And I was like, okay. This was a Monday. Christmas vacation was going to start that Friday. And I was going to have to give him a work notice if I was going to quit. And I said, okay, God's got till Friday. And I needed it. I needed to know by Friday what we were going to do with this. And so Thursday night we get a call, and it's the Alternative Learning Center, and they want an interview with us on Friday. So God showed up on Friday, and he was enrolled in an Alternative Learning Center for 1 year. That's how little bit I trusted my higher power. I thought God's taking care of World War wars and the stuff. I take care of Nashville. That's it. God's got bigger stuff to worry about than us. And so, but what I needed. And I thought, well, God didn't get him in the right school, but, I'll give him a year, because my son had to be there a year, and I said, I'll give him a year. Let's see how that turns out. End of the year, again, I had to say, okay, God, you know best, because it was wonderful. I mean, he learned so much in that school. They taught him a lot of stuff that they don't learn in regular schools about consequences and actions and all that kind of stuff. Plus, he got his degrees and got to graduate 8th grade. And he got all these awards when he left there. And this is my son who struggled. And so for him to get awards coming out of that, it was, he got every award, this, computer, all this stuff, all these awards. And so I knew, then again, God came through for me. And so I could give him a little bit more. So I've had to do those in little pieces, to where now I give God everything, because I've had to do that little bit. It was very small and very hard at first. But, God has kept showing up for me. After that, he was, I thought, okay, now he's fixed. He's learned. He actually got the award of not coming back. They didn't think he'd be coming back. He didn't go back to that school, but he did other things. But anyway, Mike and I would like to go to conferences. There was a certain conference that we would go to, and this was in February of probably 2000 or so. And we get this call. We didn't get a call. I'm sorry. It was a 4-day conference we went to. And my son, by the way, my oldest son had gone on high school, graduated, and was in college. And the younger son was in between his junior and senior year, he turned 18, and he wanted to move out of the house before his senior year, move in with a friend. But because we'd been in Al-anon and AA and Alateen and all that stuff, I said, okay, you're 18. You're old enough. It's either gonna work or it's not. You'll figure it out, and you'll learn a lesson either way. So I wish you well. And at this point, I wasn't checking up on him anymore or anything. So I didn't know that he had dropped out of school. I had no idea. And this was in his senior year. And we'd have him over for dinner every now and then. I actually had gone to his place a couple of times, his apartment. And we were at a conference, and we came home on a Sunday night. And my oldest son from college was there, and my youngest son was there. And we're like, what are y'all doing here? They said, oh, come on in and have a seat. We're like, doesn't sound good here. But so he informed us, this is the younger son, said, well, Thursday night when y'all left, after you left, I got arrested for 3 felonies and a misdemeanor and went to jail. And I was like, why didn't you call? Because of Al-anon and AA, and because of this, what we knew and how, we worked the program with them in response to it, he said, Mom, you always told me if I got myself into trouble, I had to get myself out. And we knew you were at a conference, and we were going to take care of it. And I said, well, who got you out of jail then, because you're here? And he goes, you're my older brother. So I'm saving him a seat. But, he called him, got him home from college, and told him how to round up some money, and they got him out of jail. And so we, because of the program, we were able to say, we love you, we support you. You can find the lawyer. We don't have a lawyer that we know. You can pay the lawyer. You've saved money all your life, and you've got a nice savings. But we'll stand by you, and it's just a mistake. It's what you did, and it doesn't. We love you anyway. And so we got to watch him go through, find a lawyer, and we would sit outside the lawyers with him. He would go inside and talk, and we got to just be there. And being his first offenses or whatever, he got on probation for 2 years. And they said, he asked to come back home and said, can I come home? And I said, under the condition there's no alcohol, there's no drugs, there's no guns, and you're back in school. Because, I didn't even know he'd dropped out. And so he said, okay. And he did. He came and lived with us for those 2 years while he was on probation. He went back to school, graduated high school, went to a little community college. And at the end of those 2 years, he decided he was going to move to California, or Portland, Oregon, or to follow a girl. And of course, there's a lot more things out there that, are allowed. And California, he's been out there ever since. And he's been on a journey. He knows about AA. He knows he was court-ordered at the time to go to some. But he knows what it's done for us. And we've watched him struggle. But Al-anon and AA has held our hand through it all. I knew that I just got to love him regardless. And I told him, we would call. And the only thing I paid for was his phone for a while, so I knew if he was dead or alive. Because he was living on couches. He was living in his car, But, we just, and I had to come to terms with he may not make it out there, but that was okay. I gave him to my high power, and I'm not in control of him. And so we have watched him in and out, in and out. Right now, he's 42 years old. He hasn't had a drink in 2 years. He's not in the program. He's doing it his way, which is fine with us. It's his life. It's not ours. He's done some other things, but he's decided he's going to quit that. He's actually homeless. He broke up with his girlfriend, and he's trying to figure out where he wants to be. So he's living with friends. He's got a great job because a few years back he got in a lot of financial problems because of drugs, alcohol, you name it, and his choices. And asked to borrow some money, but luckily he asked his dad and not me, and Dad said no. Because I don't know what I would have done, but Dad said no, you can figure it out, you got stuff, and you can find a job out there. And he went with a friend, and a friend of a friend passed on something, and he found a job that he loved, and he was passionate about, and it was what he went to community college for, believe it or not. And he has been able to make more money than he's ever made on his own, and started with a great company out there, and did really well, and he was off because we said no. He figured it out. We got to let him figure it out. And so he's still trying to figure it out. He's gone over to Hawaii to help people over there. He can do pretty much anything handyman-wise, and he works with a lot of friends, and he lives pretty much what he makes, he lives off, but he's happy. And we've been talking. We talk almost every day now. He calls us and lets us know where he is and stuff, and just keeps us abreast of where he's doing for the day. But he's found a community out in Hawaii that he's probably going to move to, and there's no drugs and alcohol, and he really liked that group, and so I'm really happy, and I hope that works out for him. But we keep him in our prayers, and that's all we can do, and love him. And so the other son, he has, in 2000, well, he got engaged. He was in college. He got engaged, and about this time, in 99 and 2000, he was going to wait until he graduated college to get married. And he didn't know her very long, so I was really glad they had a long engagement. And he ended up calling us early that February of 2000 and said, "How do y'all feel about being grandparents? Someday that'd be great. How about August?" And I'm like, Al-anon kind of slipped out the door, and I said, "Y'all want to move the wedding up now this spring? We can go ahead and do something this spring, this summer, real quick." And he goes, "Why?" And I went, "Oh, I don't know. That thought just popped into my head." And so I thought, oh, okay. But to the old me would have said, "You need to get married. You have to get married, da-da-da-da-da." And, they actually got married. Well, actually, they had a little girl that August, and we got to let them do their thing, with or without insurance. It had a lot of Al-anon, a lot of prayers, a lot of AA. I mean, it was tough, having their lights turned off or their water turned off every now and then, and just, my son worked really hard and they, kept that family together, and they actually got married when they said they were going to get married, their first, and so the little girl got to walk down the aisle as their flower girl. It was the cutest thing. I thought, okay, God, you do know. It's still, I never know. I have no clue what anybody else needs to do. And God keeps showing me that. I've just got to let everybody else take care of themselves. Take care of Diane. Anyway, so that little girl got to be the light of my eye. I got to have a little girl, a little, lavender room with dolls and frills and all that, because I had boys in my house forever. No girl stuff, and I got to be, yay. Even though I was a tomboy and stuff, I wasn't into all that stuff as much, but I had a great time. Because they were very young, on the weekends, her mother or I we would take nights, so they'd always have their weekends off, and we got to keep our granddaughter. And just all through, because I worked in a school system, so when I could take her on spring breaks, all the summer breaks, all those things I did. Took her shopping, just had a ball. We took her all the way to California at one time and to visit her other grandmother after she'd moved over there, and just had a ball with this granddaughter. And that marriage did not last. It lasted about 4 years, and we got to watch a divorce happen. It was like a program divorce. Even though our son wasn't in any Al-anon or anything, they worked it out on paper, and they said, here, they took it to a lawyer and said, file it. And they co-parented that granddaughter, and they still do. We are very close with her mom. That we actually got to walk our husband's ex-wife down the aisle for her second marriage. She asked us to walk her down with her parents. Because she said, y'all are more parents than my parents, because her parents had moved away and we were there. She was in Nashville, and we kept her in our lives, when they divorced or not, because that's the mom of my granddaughter, and I wanted to be close to both of them. And so we still got a great relationship. She and her husband moved away, but we talk, and it was just, this due to this program, that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have had that relationship. And then that granddaughter grew up, and we watched her change, and appearances, and I would always take her to buy clothes. Prom stuff started happening. She wanted to wear a tuxedo. She cut her hair like a guy, and I was like, that's fine. That's whatever. I was buying her boy clothes everywhere. We'd take her to the beach. We just had a blast. And I thought, she'll tell me what's going on whatever's going on. And anyway, when she was going to graduate high school, I was going to have a banner printed that my son was going to make, and it was going to have her name and the college and the high school and stuff in it. And I was telling her mom about I wanted to do this banner for her because we were going to have a party at our house. And she said, I might want to check with her first. And I was like, okay. And so the next few days we got a call from her, and she said, I need to come talk to y'all. So I'm like, okay, what's up? And she said, I don't want my name on the banner because, see, that's not my name at school. They don't know me by that name. I go by a guy's name at school. And I actually am going to graduate with a guy's name and a guy's cap and gown. And I said, okay, thanks for telling us. Because I was like, that's fine. He said, but I'm a trans man. I'm going to be a trans man, and I'm going to have surgery. Before I go into college, I want to go in as a guy. And I'm like, okay, so what's happening? He raised the money, and he had the surgery, and he went into college as a guy. And it was hard. The pronouns are really hard. And the old name's hard, It's like, I want you to call me this name. I'd slip up a lot. And I said, you just got to give me grace. I'm old, and I can't get anybody's name right anyway. I called my sons by each other's name. I said, names are awful. And so I said, just please give me grace. I'm old. And so, we laugh about it. And it took a while, but then 2 years into his college, COVID hit that March, and everything just shut down. And he was working and going through, college, helping to pay and all that himself. And when it went online, he just couldn't do it. And he suffers from a lot of anxiety and depression too. And so he came home. His dad had moved to California when he was his sophomore year, because Dad said he'd rather come to California and visit me probably than Nashville, because he can visit y'all in Nashville. And his mom had married and had just a one-bedroom house. And he came and asked us to live with us. So during COVID, our grandson came and moved in with us, which I'm so grateful for. Because of this program, I can accept him the way he wants to be. And y'all taught me to move out of that fear. Yes, I have fear for him. I have a lot of fear, but I still have a higher power that he's in charge of him, and he's going to take care of him, and I'm not in control of that. And, my job is to love him. And having him at my house for 2 years, seeing him transition into that person that he is today, the physical appearance changed, the soul has not. He is that little baby that I held. He's that little girl that I played with. He's, all the beautiful memories of that little girl. I grieve her loss, but I get to love my grandson the way he wants to be loved. And and today, we have a fabulous relationship. He ended up at the end. We told him after 2 years he wanted to move to Portland. We said, "Okay, you've saved up your money," because he was working and living with us. Now it's time to 60 days you can move. I'll give you you can go out and get your friends and y'all can live. And he moved to Portland for a year, and then he moved down to California, close to his dad, because where he was in Oregon, it wasn't working out, and he was having a lot of COVID issues and stuff, health issues from having COVID. So my two boys are now both in California. We're going to go spend Thanksgiving with them hopefully next week, and our grandson is there too. So as a result of this program, I have relationships with all my brothers and sisters. I've lost my oldest, Al-anon has walked me through losing my brother, and this, he didn't have this disease. He had a terminal cancer. And my dad died. My mom died prior to the program. Because of the program, I have relationships with everybody. I've cleaned up the wreckage of our past. And, but the program is it's a total benefit from that. I don't know that I'd have the relationships that I do today without AA, Al-anon, and even Alateen. I'm so grateful for Alateen. I hope y'all have a good program here, but I know it's hard. After COVID, I think it did a lot of damage. But anyway, I thank you for letting me be here. I probably forgot a lot, but I like to close with this reading out of our One Day at a Time, August 6th. It says, "This is a day which God has given into my hands. If I could only realize what a tremendous gift this is, I would use every moment of it to make my life more serene, more rewarding. I would not look back over my shoulder at the disappointments of the past. I would not anxiously contemplate the future. I would live just for today as well as I can. I would put aside critical thoughts of others. I would notice interesting things, the expressions on people's faces, a plant growing on my windowsill, the grace and charm of a child, an arrangement of clouds. Today, there are wonders all around me if I will open my eyes and enjoy them. Thank you for opening my eyes."